All right, everybody, let's do this. We're going to have more joining along the way. I'm really happy that you're here today. My name is Lauren Bailey. I am the founder of the 3 brands you see on this screen. And I've spent the last 20 years bouncing between sales leadership and training leadership, and have put together more training initiatives, new hire training programs, ongoing certification paths than I can probably count. And the hardest thing about putting together this presentation was picking just 10 hacks. I narrowed this down from about 120, and I still cheated. I'm going to wind up at 14. So for those of us who don't know each other already, I'm going to give you 20 seconds of background. Let's see if I can stick to that. Here we go. Factor 8. I started Factor 8 11 years ago. Factor 8 trains frontline reps and managers on how to sell business to business over the phone. I was a sales manager early in my career with a team of brand new reps, and they were taught just about everything except how to sell over the phone. And I was never taught how to be that manager. And when I popped out of corporate America after leading global training strategy for SAP, I started Factor 8 to address those needs. The second logo you saw there is the sales bar. This is a new logo for us, a new brand. About a year ago, we thought, you know what, we can help more people. We took 11 years of our curriculum and put it all online in an on-demand, unlimited model to help people train their reps and managers to be more successful and stay. The third logo you see is a passion project for me. Exactly a year ago, we launched something called Girls Club. And this is a sales management readiness program to help build a pipeline in your organizations of ready-to-go sales managers. But we focus particularly on women. And we're trying to solve for the fact that there's less than 10% of women in sales leadership positions, and that number's been flat for a long time. So those are the 3 things I've got my hands in. But the expertise is deep in how to leverage developing your people for business growth. So let's talk a little bit about the why and where we are in a current situation in our industry today. SaaS has truly changed the game of developing our people, right? Everybody's goal who's in a portfolio company is to be that red line. I want to be the disruptive technology. And that means I have a pretty crazy growth initiative, right? This, hockey stick isn't going to cut it. Slow and steady is not going to cut it. I need a sharp angle, high and to the right. But what's happened in the last few years, as you can see, is our available pool has gone exactly the opposite direction. And the result of that is, well, no, they're not really getting dumber. It's not their fault. But we expect more and more out of reps, and there are fewer and fewer available in the hiring pool. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel and expecting them to grow even faster. And it's put us in a tough situation. We have to get smarter about how we're developing our people. We have to get faster about it so we can recognize our revenue more quickly. So this is the slide I built literally 6 years ago. As I saw these trends coming together, I announced it on a main stage at a conference that the companies who get it, the companies who are starting now to build a process of being able to bring on almost anybody and train them to be successful will be the ones left standing, because everybody wants the college graduate who played a competitive sport and has 2 years of sales experience, but those folks aren't available as they used to be. So hopefully some of these hacks are going to get you on the right road to building that differentiator. But let's ask ourselves first, how important is that? Right? Do we really need great salespeople out there? What percentage of customer loyalty is based on their experience with sales reps? The number might surprise you. It's pretty hefty, 53%. Unfortunately, the percentage of people who trust salespeople is declining rapidly. The last time I presented this on stage, the number was 13%. I was told right afterwards the stat has dropped even further. HubSpot recently presented it was 8%. So more than half of your customer experience and loyalty and giving you ongoing cash is dependent on the rep, and less than 10% of people are having that great experience and trusting the reps. So what's going on? How big is development in that? Well, It's the number one reason that people are leaving companies. And that is not a new statistic. I've been reporting that for about 5 straight years. The number one reason reps are leaving is a lack of development. The number one thing new millennials are looking for is development. So I put this together to help you see that you're doing the right thing by checking this out. We have a million, I'm a business owner too, right? We have a million competing priorities, but focusing on developing our people will have a good payoff, right? Here's another one that scares you a little bit. 1 in 5 are actually satisfied with what's going on out there. There's definitely room for improvement. And the good news is we're going to start talking about onboarding. That new hire program, it can cut ramp time in half. Not only is this a third-party statistic, I have seen it and been a part of doing even better than that. I had a client that took 9 months for reps to hit quota. And after we re-swizzled their training in new hire, people were making sales their very first week. We cut it by about 200%. So that's great. Here's some hacks on how we did that. We're going to start at that new hire or onboarding. Now, especially in the busy SaaS world, what usually winds up happening when we're onboarding a rep is, welcome to the company. You get a day and a half of paperwork and orientation, a little bit about our product, how to log into our systems, and here's your script, right? We've all done it. It's extremely tempting. The problem is the effect is something like this. They wind up being masks that we give to our reps, right? We hire them to engage our customers, and then we tell them to use our words instead. We hire them for our personality and then say, yeah, no, don't use it, right? But what we really want is for our customers to engage, to hear, to trust. What we want them to hear is confidence. That's how we build trust. So instead of just building bravery with scripts, let's build confidence, because that's what dials the phone the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. Confidence, what asks the tough questions, doesn't take no, challenges, overcomes the objection. It's what we all want. Let's talk about how you build it. At Factor 8, we like to say the number one thing you can do, hack 1, to build confidence is to build first base skills. Now, first base skills basically plays on the old movie Moneyball. If you remember Brad Pitt in that movie, Moneyball about the Oakland A's said, I'm not going to put my money in my roster in the guys who can pitch, the guys who can catch, the guys who can hit homers, the guys who can steal bases. I'm putting my money on the guys who can get on first, because you can't get home if you can't get on first, right? So that's the same with reps. You want to build confidence, help them get on first. Help them have their initial sales conversations. One of the struggles we have in our industry is that 80% of what's out there in sales books and training is once you get the conversation. But anybody who's been trying to sell something over the phone knows damn well that 80% of your effort is just getting that conversation. So the first 5 skills we recommend teaching reps help them get that conversation and keep it. So focus there. Hack number 2 is about how you onboard them. At my age, I have great stories about walking uphill in the snow both ways to school and starting my first sales job with a phone book and a rotary phone, right? We used to tape calls literally using tape recorders. And so as leaders, like those of us who have come up through sales, we survived. It was sink or swim, and the water was full of sharks. But that doesn't work for the situation with our employment and those reps today anymore. So hack number 2, even if you're a tiny company and you're onboarding a couple reps this year, hire them in 2s, hire them in groups. One of the other great reasons for this is not just because they bond and build confidence when they're hired together, but because the work your managers or your training department does in onboarding something new in that new hire training, it's the same, whether it's 2 people or whether it's 18 people. So fill those classes, even if you have to overhire for a few months, because you will have attrition. Next hack, most new hire training programs are really heavy on number 1 and number 2. We're missing 3 through 6. And folks, I have audited onboarding programs from some of the largest Fortune 500 companies and companies all over the world. We've got to include all 6, right? The sales skills, even if you hired sales talent, folks, it might not be over the phone. It might not be in your industry, right? It might not be with your customer set. The process. Process is about how a bill becomes a law, How do I get things done in this company? What happens after I give a quote? What are the top 10 customer questions and who do I go to get those solved? The 3 acumens I'm going to talk about in a second. And the last one, a really important one, is getting your sales managers involved with training. Now, for some of you, that's one and the same because your sales managers are doing your training. And I invite you to change that as soon as possible, right? Sales managers are really, really busy and they're really awful trainers. Unfortunately, because there's often that disconnect, if you do have a training department, I guarantee that at least one of your managers has said to the reps coming out of it, now forget everything you learned in training, I'll show you how it really works. So we need to integrate them together. And there's a couple tips through the rest of this to make that happen. Let's talk about the acumens. These are almost always missing and a huge win for getting reps ready to talk to your customers and doing it at a higher level. Business acumen. We cannot count on reps coming in understanding the difference between a CEO and a COO. We cannot count on them understanding the difference between ROI and break-even point. They might not even understand a focus on profitability and top challenges. That's your business acumen. We got to teach them that. It's on us now. Industry acumen. If you work in the financial industry, FISA, what are the top 3 trends? Are there any government regulations that might be shaping decisions? What are people talking about? What are some of the challenges? Help explain that in real English. And the same with your customers. If you're typically working with accountants, if you're typically working with VPs of sales, what are their challenges? What are their drivers? What is their language? What are the trends there? These 3 acumens build a foundation. Unfortunately, when they're not there, all of the sales and advanced skills we're trying to build on top of it, they wind up crumbling. So spend time here. My favorite way to do customer acumen is getting them on the phones talking to customers first, especially existing customers. It's a great way to build confidence. Hack 5 in new hire training is build to competent, right? We cannot force expert skills on a new hire. When I was in charge of the SAP global training strategy, one of the VPs in the EMEA region wanted every single new rep on the phones to be trained in spin selling. Spin selling it's a little old, but it's excellent. It's really good. It's also a level 3 skill. When you teach somebody who doesn't have solid business acumen and connection with customer and knowledge to go in and ask problem and implication and payoff questions or challenger questions to a C-level executive, they will be eaten alive. They're not ready for that yet. So my simple tip on how do you figure out what goes into new hire training is think about what that new rep will need just month 1 on the floor. Don't even mention the rest of it. You're going to bring them back for it. And what that means is a rep comes out thinking, I only need to know this much for the job and I've nailed it. I'm ready. I can go make calls. And that's how you build confidence. And of course, that's what we want, dialing the phone for us. Hack number 6, it's hard to outsource a lot of this, right? You're only one person. How can you get it all done? Well, a part that you can outsource, obviously, is the sales training. That's our business. We've studied this. And 85% of the best-in-class companies that Aberdeen studies do this, even the large companies with massive training departments. Why? Because chances are somebody who's in HR-led training department has never sold a thing in their lives. Who's teaching your people how to sell? It's a great hack, and it can help offload you and your training team to go build other things like the acumens. Hack number 7 in new hire training, we're rounding the bend here, is get them on the phones as soon as possible. I like to see week 1 on the phones. Okay, if you've got somebody who's willing to sit in a training class for 3 weeks before they pick up the phone, you probably have the wrong somebody, right? It also starts to become scary. I need to know it all before I pick up the phone. But when we put them on the phones on day 3 or 4, even if it's just data cleansing or calling existing customers, I understand that that's my job. I get used to it. I'm not surprised if somebody hangs up on me or if I can't get a hold of somebody. Makes a huge difference in shortening ramp time. Hack number 8. Now, I got to tell you, I would have thought this was obvious. I audited a program a couple months ago, massive company, massive training department. And I was on the floor noticing that reps didn't know how to really set the demo or do the demo or grab the quote or share the screen. And they just couldn't do it, right? And these were baseline skills for what they were doing. So we went back and looked at the training department and saw, yeah, I'm training it. I got it. But it was a guy standing in front of the room showing it to him. It's like when my 6-year-old tries to show me how to play Roblox. It's like, it's crazy making. Everyone needs to get hands-on with the systems. So if you're in the case where you're building out a training department or just getting there, build yourself a training room where everybody has systems, and make sure that all the systems and tools they're using have a sandbox area. Not where you roll code, not the test system, but something that's mirrored monthly. So it looks like life on the floor, and I can get in and actually do these things. Especially with a CRM, a top tip here is to have timed system drills, because you know they got to multitask and they got to enter things fast. So step 1 is just trying it. Step 10 is I can do it in 20 seconds or less. Okay, this one is my very favorite. Call recordings drastically cut ramp time. What happens when somebody's listening to a call, even if it's not theirs, is they can get into the mind of the customer, and they can slow down the game and decide where to use which skill. Now, if you study adult learning, you're going to learn that people learn, adults, in file folders. My product file, my sales file, my systems file, etc., my customer file. And when they're struggling to ramp, right, from $0 to quota, it's not because they don't know what to say. We've taught them. It's very often that they don't know when to say it. So when you play 10 seconds of a call and then hit pause, and you ask 2 questions, what's the customer thinking and what would you do next? Oh, what a difference. Oh, this is where I use those sales questions that you taught me. Oh, this is where I close for the demo. It makes a massive difference when they learn what to apply when. Because if you ever asked a brand new rep in their first month on the floor, how'd that call go for you? The truth is, they don't know. It went by so fast, and they were so nervous and they were so scared that they can't tell you how the call went. They barely remember what the customer said, right? The whole thing was over. It was like asking a girl on her first date. The pause game fixes that. All right, last hack in new hire training is aligned to a call coaching or quality form. It takes a little while to develop these, okay? But when you know exactly what good sounds like, and your new hire training team also knows exactly what good sounds like, you're aligning training with sales. What a great way to get your managers involved in building it, and what a great way to get them involved in training. I like to make the final test, and yes, people can and should fail out of new hire training, doing a mock call to the sales manager where the manager's grading the form. Now, obviously, it's not 100% as a passing score, but maybe 75 or 80%. All right, you guys, we're going to switch and talk a little bit about manager training, some bonus hacks here. So those are my top 10 when you're onboarding a rep. Let's talk about manager development, because I got to tell you, we don't often get to that, and we hardly ever get to it first. Why should you start with managers? Well, if scalability is important to you, this is where you need to start, okay? I've got a friend who runs about a 500-person inside sales center, right? We've got a whole bunch of managers, huge scalability number in front of them. They were less than 100 a year ago, and their attrition is well over 175% now. The managers can't keep these new people on the job. Why? We never trained them how to do their job, right? I know that was my situation when I started in inside sales. Being a manager is drastically different than being a rep. And 75% of us promote from within, right? A rep, you just became a manager, go for it. That's all we give them. So every single manager is managing people differently. We don't have a set process. We don't know what good looks like. We're not caring for that rep and keeping them in the company. There's so many reasons that we need to help develop our managers. Probably the number one is the ratio, right? One rep can easily mess up 100, up to 1,000 leads or accounts. 10 of those to one manager, we're talking thousands and tens of thousands of the impact it can have on your business. So is there a payoff here? Absolutely, you guys. The stat that we saw here from CSO Insights in the Bridge Group recently was that great manager development can improve the team's percentage to quota from 18 to 107%. So if 63% is the average of that, hello, how would that be across the floor, right? We don't often think that developing our managers impacts sales, but it does. This is a clip from a little case study we did for a company that had 50 AEs, and they're about, pardon me, a 900K per year overall team quota. We said, what would happen if we increased by 63%, $12.3 million in the year? It's like having 26 free headcount. If you want to dig into that case study and see the details later, let me know. One more reason we develop our managers, 50%, right? They're quitting their boss. They join a company, they quit a boss. You guys have heard that before. So where do you start with sales managers? Well, the Sales Executive Council did a ranking. Where are sales managers strong? Where are they not strong? And our weakest skill is call coaching. That's no big surprise. If you're a phenomenal rep, almost every one of your tendencies, behaviors, and skills are contrary to being a great coach. And I can live by that and just be really honest with you. I struggle and always did with call coaching. I don't have the patience for it. Great rep, horrible coach. We have to teach them how to coach. It used to be a 2-hour class at Factor 8. Seriously. Now it's like a 3-part, 16-hour endeavor to get them there. That's the heavy lifting around call coaching. Last hack for managers. What else do they need to know? Well, the first few things we wind up teaching managers. Number one is a daily cadence. A cadence says, what am I supposed to do on my job? Right? A rep has a cadence. Here's what I'm doing outbound. Here's email. Here's who I'm calling. Here's how I sort. Here's my outreach, right? A manager's is different now. Here's when I call coach. Here's when I release orders. Here's the meetings. Here's how often I should have them. What goes in a meeting. The second most popular skill is about proactiveness and prioritizing time. I probably worked 14 hours a day my first 6 months on the job as a sales manager. I know many of yours are doing that as well. And they can literally spend all day long putting out fires. We call it whack-a-mole management, right? And they never get to those strategies and initiatives to grow sales. Call coaching's up there. Performance one-on-ones, how to give that feedback, right? How to not just talk about the numbers, but grow the rep. Pipeline. What's the right way to do it? How do you keep it clean? And how do you develop your people? Those are our top 6. Hunt for those. Last section, just a couple quick hacks in ongoing development, because unfortunately, many of us stop at how do I onboard reps? And then it's over. And that's what we're learning. That's why we're losing people. In fact, a recent study that was commissioned by the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals tells us that more than half of the companies polled have no development for their reps past their initial onboarding. That's why they're leaving us, folks. So hack number 13 is the fact that, you guys, it's an ongoing process, not an event. This is a chart I've drawn for a lot of clients over the years. It says, listen, when they're way on this left side and they're brand new under 1 month, they're doing a ton of training, right? They're in full time. That's new hire. And then it will go down. Their performance goes up. The amount of development goes down, but it never gets to 0. And the color codes across the bottom show you that competency scale. At the beginning, we're just getting them competent, level 101. Then we move to 201. Then we move to 301. That creates a career path. That creates a certification path. And reps are craving that. So for companies that fight that, I'll just make a quick analogy for you, right? It's ridiculous to think that you hire a professional sports player, they go to spring training, and then they just play games, right? This is your sports team. They're playing games every single sales call. We gotta keep them in training, daily practice, reviewing game tape, etc. I recommend that you're looking at, for established teams, a good hour a week. I try to make at least 3 or 4 hours of development available per rep per month. Never the last week of the month, never the last 2 weeks of the quarter. And the last hack I have for you guys is budget annually to train, okay? Budget annually. We've learned we have to put a tools budget line item per rep, but we're still not getting there with a training budget. Just over half of companies surveyed actually have a training budget ongoing for their reps. And as sales leaders, unless you have that budget to play with, you just don't have the tools that you need to engage and retain your people. So best practice for a rep level is $1,500 to $1,800 per year per rep. Best practice for managers is typically about double that. Right now, we're sitting at about half of where we should be, right? So if we spent more than 3% of what we spent trying to find the people on keeping the people, we could probably spend less money on trying to find the people, right? That would make sense. Okay, I'm going to move to questions in 1 second, so you guys can pull yourself off mute in the ribbon along the bottom. But in the meantime, I am going to give you an offer. If you'd like to prove the immediate impact of developing your people, we have a free class available on the sales bar. One of the first base skills is voicemails, and it's something that most people gloss right over and skip. Sure, I call them 3 or 4 times. Oh no, I maybe left one message. I probably shouldn't leave a message every single time. We're of the strong belief that you absolutely should. Every time you leave a message, it's a brand impression. Every time it increases the opportunity of them calling you back and you actually connecting for a call. Unfortunately, most voicemails that are left are kind of crappy. So when you get into the sales bar and download your free trial, you'll see lots of the great stuff that's available out there for reps and managers, but there's a free class on voicemails. Our friend Tom at Bottom Line took this class. His group of 13 reps typically had 0 callbacks during a week. He did the training on Monday. That week they had 27 callbacks, 5 leads and 1 sale. So prove an immediate spike in developing your people. Go build a case for training budget. I've left 4 minutes for questions. I cannot believe I got all that in that fast. I hope it wasn't terribly confusing. And if there's something exciting that you want to dig into now or after the fact, you're very, very welcome. Does anybody have a question?
Hi, Lauren. It's Faiza.
Hi, Faiza.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Look, you amazes me every single time. This was phenomenal.
I'm so
glad. A lot
glad.
of great information. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Regarding voicemails, or not voicemails, recording calls. One of the challenges that I have in our organization is that our legal team has made it really complicated for us to record the calls.
Yeah.
And we use Outreach as our prospecting tool. So we really decided to just go with, live listening to calls versus, recording the calls.
Yep.
Do you have any suggestion on that?
I do. Number one, keep fighting the good fight. It's hard to overcome a legal team, especially in your industry. However, we have seen companies do it, right? There are ways you can set up your IVR. I don't know if Outreach can help with that, so that only calls to one-party states are ever recorded, right? That keeps people safe. So put somebody important on trying to win the legal battle. It will take years. I understand that. In the meantime, managers can absolutely coach live calls. That makes it very difficult and very time consuming, I know. But we know that this is a problem for folks. So one of the things, Faiza, we did in the sales bar is created a call library. There are hundreds of recorded call samples in there. Other industries, it's all been cleaned, right, to protect the innocent. But you can listen to other reps, leave a voicemail, and then get some of the feedback, good, bad, or ugly. You can listen to them do an intro, overcome an objection, and still play the pause game to help them develop the skills and slow down the game. So use other calls to do that development with the reps, and then do your live coaching when you can. A little hack I used to use, Faiza, was I roll my chair into the middle of the aisle and basically just be like, who got on a call, right? I can listen to 5 people at once. This guy's on a call. I would roll over. I couldn't necessarily automatically hear the other side of the conversation, but once you've heard 10,000
Right.
calls, you know what they're saying, right? You don't need to hear that other
Yeah.
side of the conversation. So that's a little time saver for you, and I hope that helped.
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome, dear. Anybody else? I'm going to move on. Please feel free to interrupt me if you do have a question come up. But if there's something you'd like to learn more about, I'm going to introduce you to Jeremy. Now, you got to take a close look at this picture. I love this. So the cupcake guy in the background is on our booth when we were at a trade show, right? We just loved this guy. It was like, have your cake and eat it too. More calls and better calls, right? And then we hired Jeremy, who some of you have already met. Hi, Jeremy. Look how much he looks like Cupcake Guy, right? And so the booth next to us had cupcakes. We thought that was pretty effing brilliant. So if you want to learn more, it doesn't mean you need to come and buy more. if you want to learn about how the sales bar works, what classes are in there, if you want to learn about, well, what does it even cost to outsource sales training? Jeremy's your guy. His contact information is there. There's a website for each one of our 3 brands. And I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. We put out tons of great content and value adds, everything about developing people, building confidence, and helping sales grow through our people. I thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stay on as people drop off, and just in case anybody else has questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one, Lillian.
Thank you too. Take care.
So Lauren, it's Faiza. I have
Yes.
one more question for you,
Great.
if possible.
Absolutely.
So one of the challenges that I also have with the new hires is that we spend time, we obviously hire, interview so many different people.
Yeah.
And then, when we say, okay, this person knows BD, is good for SaaS, products. Now let's move on to the next level. We usually have an account manager leader to also interview them. Okay, great. They know this, they know that, they know the business, they know the, market. All right, let's go to the next level. Do an in-person interview with a, local sales reps that are going to be working with this person. And then from there we hire. One of the things that I learned the last few months, I had 2 hires that both of them were really good with sales. Like they could sell, they could do a really good job with business development. The problem was they didn't have basic skills that I never thought of it. Like they didn't know how to use Excel or how to use Google Doc. And I was like, holy cow, is that possible in this world?
Yeah.
How do you graduate from high school?
Right? That's the thing. They're lacking some of these really basic things. They can't send a calendar invite. They
Exactly.
can't email. Yeah, it's really frustrating. So Faiza, you really wind up having to see how big of a deal breaker is it? And if it's a deal breaker, it goes into the interview process. If it's a minor deal breaker, a deal bender, it goes into the new hire training process. If it's just a slight annoyance, it goes into the ongoing development process. I will give you an example from years ago that we hired the people the same way. They came into training and they couldn't type. Now, I don't know a single millennial type. Maybe they would try to do it with their thumbs, or they don't know how to not use a touch screen, right? But literally, they were hunting and pecking, and you'll never keep up with the pace of a sales call and what's the demand of the job if you're hunting and pecking. And it was an absolute deal breaker. So now a typing test was part of the interview. If they want the job bad enough, they're going to learn it. Now, problem is, it's a seller's market, not a buyer's market. So chances are you're going to wind up not in the interview process, but in the training process somewhere, helping get them those skills. But it's great to keep track of these things, right? Your job as the sales leader every month is to track, here are the things that are working, and here are the top 3 gaps, and push it over to the training department so they can build the curriculum around it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I even changed my own interview style. Like I spent 10 minutes on walk me through what you're proud on your resume, 10 minutes I ask you about, psychological questions, just understand your personality. 15 minutes I ask a technical question about business development. And then we open up 15 minutes for you to ask any questions you want.
Smart, really smart. And do you guys have a phone screen? I'm surprised with how many phone sales companies are meeting in person first.
We do. So we have a talent team that we recently just, started. So the last couple of weeks, believe it or not, they've been helping me. That's why I'm really trying to figure out how I can do it smarter going forward.
100%, 100%. I would invite you to keep an ongoing list of what you need, but also be really clear about the outcomes in each of those. I need them to be able to use Google Docs is different than I need them to be able to create, comment, and share in a Google Doc. You know what I mean? What do you need?
I got to learn that.
Yeah. Do they need to just do sums or pivot tables? Because there's a difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, you're right at the beginning of it.
Very helpful.
It's such heavy lifting. It truly is. Get the help where you can, outsource where you can. And by the way, delegate to team members where you can. Even if they're reps, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Have them create these things for you, or go and help with your learning department or recruiting department.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not possible to do it all by yourself. So yeah, no, we have our obviously HR team helps. I have team leads that are working, with me at the same time. But still, it's a big group, and especially when we want to hire globally in EMEA, in APAC, it's really challenging.
Yes, it does need to be a very tight process. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
That call coaching form is probably going to help you as well. That's how you tighten
Yes.
up on the sales skills side.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Laura.
Oh, you're so welcome. Anybody else have a question who stayed with us? All right. Well, I'm going to shut it down, close up the old CBS mailbag, as David Letterman used to say. We're highly available to you guys. We're so excited to see more and more people focusing on developing their people and keeping them with the company and helping business results grow. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to meeting with you and hopefully linking up with you on LinkedIn.